All right, we're going to look at how to create a fixed point plot, um, looking at to see whether the point is an attractor or repelling or so on. First thing you have to do is graph the two functions. The one function you want to graph is y equals x for sure, and then graph the other function that you're looking at, the iterating function, which in this case I have it as 2x times 1 minus x. So we're going to have to set x's. We'll start at 0, and we need to go probably quite small in our increments to create enough points for you to have a nice graph. So I'm going to have 0.01, and maybe I'll graph up to x equals 1. So we'll do that here. And then you want to, on y equals x, of course, that's going to be equal to the previous cell. And then y equals 2x times 1 minus x will be equal to 2 times x times, open parentheses, 1 minus that cell, right? So you create that. So now you have these two functions you're creating, and you pull them down to copy and paste them all the way down to as far as you need to. We may not actually need to go to 1, but here you have data points for your actual graphs of y equals x and y equals 2x times 1 minus x, because you want to iterate between these two. You want to actually draw a graph between these two functions here. So now I'm going to plot a scatter plot, so I'll highlight some of these points. I may not go all the way to 1, because you want to have your graph looking large enough so you can see those the iterations going on. So I'm just going to go to 0.75 for this one. Let's go insert scatter plot, and then you can draw a smooth line or with points, but here's my chart. So there's my graph of the two functions. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to actually, you don't need to have this necessarily on there, I want to now start with a seed and then draw on this graph the pathway of that. All right, now we want to create a cobweb on our chart. And the way we do that is we have our chart, and we're going to have to superimpose another plot onto that chart. So I just have it labeled as x and y, and we're going to start with a seed of 0.2. You could start with any seed, but we're going to use 0.2. So I'm going to equal that seed in my x value. And the idea is we start on the line y equals x. So my y value is going to equal to whatever that was. So that's y equals x. So we're here at this point. The next point we're going to do is we're going to equal, we want to stay with that x value, but we want to change the y value. So we're going to equal what that was, that y value was. But my y value now is going to equal whatever my function is evaluated at that x value. So it's going to be 2 star 2 times 0.2 times, parentheses, 1 minus that value in E7. So we get that number there. That's 0.32. And I did this already, but I'll show you how to do this again. I had actually put the plot in before, so it's actually plotting as I do it, but I'll show you how to get that. So now I want to keep that y value as my x value as well, so we equal that y value, and here we're also going to equal that y value. And even as we go down here, I want to equal to that previous y value. Okay, so notice these three kind of referring, these two refer to this cell up here, and this one refers to this cell, and they're all the same number, and you'll see that pattern. So now I'm going to reevaluate my function at that x value. So I'm going to go 2 times this number here times, open parentheses, 1 minus this number here, and close it. And that's my new y value, which now also becomes this x value, and also becomes this y value as we go back onto the line y equals x. And then down here, again, we actually keep that same value. Okay, so you see that pattern happening, and after you do it a few times, in fact, here I have it done, one here, a few times. Let's do this one more time. Let's do equal 2 times this value times, open parentheses, 1 minus this value, oops, equals 2 times this value times, open parentheses, 1 minus this value, and we get that number. So after you've done this a few times, you should be able to copy and paste this, and it should bring it up. I'm actually going to do one more here. This equal to that, and this is equal to that. And if you, let's say, copy and paste, if you highlight this, it sees this pattern, hopefully, and you see eventually get to 0.5. So there's my fixed point. There's my cobweb for this particular seed of 0.2. Eventually goes to 0.5. So how would I graph this thing here? Let's say I didn't have all this thing. Let's say this was gone. Okay, how would I graph it on here? So I have my points. So I click on my chart, and then we go chart design, and we want to select data. So we're going to superimpose data onto my chart. So here I'm going to add another series, and in my series I'm going to highlight the X values I've created, and then I'm going to highlight the Y values I've created, and click OK. So now notice this comes up as this curvy thing because my original scatter plot were like a nice curve connecting the dots. So I'm going to right click on that particular curve, and I want to change this particular chart type to a scatter plot, but with nice straight lines, so like this or like this. So I might keep the points in it like this, and then you see there you have your cobweb for this seed.